organized by the WIT Club. So, so a warm welcome to our dear alums as well as the panelists. So, as you are well aware, especially the design folks, we have with us amazing alums with us who have failed their career in design industry and have agreed to give us their precious time and share their experience and advice with us. So, thank you, Bhavna,
Hi.
Amya, Karan, Chanchal.
Hello.
So welcome. Moving on to the topic. So okay, so uh, so this is our session plan, which I've already shared with almost everyone. And yeah, before we begin, I would say that as time permits, we can have a question answer session at the end, I guess. And also, if you guys have any additional questions or clarifications that you want it to be answered like after the track is over, you can just write it on in the chat box, and you can, if you want to direct a question to one of the alums, you can write their name, and then we'll see of how to take about it. Okay. So I think yeah, we are ready to begin. So well, this is the background of our PhD branch in our institute with all these courses, and we also have faculty and the students apart from PhD who want to pursue, design and FCI. We work with professors who are in wearable writing, 3D, VR animation, etc. So this is a small brief intro. So yeah, I would like to have you started with what are the design roles in the industry that you could tell us about. Anyone can go ahead.
I can start.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Sure.
high level, the design roles are usually split between a researcher and a designer, and within those, there would be like multiple specialities that you would have. So when I look at UX design, you could maybe specialize in the UX part of it, which is thinking about the flows, the wireframes, interactions, all of that, or you could specialize in the visual design piece. There are also motion designers, which is very specific, thinking about animation, interaction, and stuff. And so that's like the design side of things. There's also this title called product designer, which sometimes tries to cover all of it. But the other big track is UX research, where you are one working with designers to figure out what are the right questions you want to go out and ask your users and go into the field and do all of that and then synthesize the findings. And within research, there could be a person who is just conducting the sessions, sometimes called a research assistant, and the other person would be a UX researcher. So yeah, like design research, two main tracks and multiple roles under those.
So I would like to add to that. I think another role that is up and coming and sort of becoming commonplace is the UX writing role. Uh, because a lot of focus goes when you're thinking about the user on the copy that you present. Is it precise? Is it sharp? Is it concise enough? So, yeah, that role is also coming up in the field.
One thing I can also add is something called the design evangelist, which Apple is introducing these days, wherein the person needs to be well equipped with the technology that is going to be used, whatever you're going to design on, and what it eventually serves to. So, that is also something that a lot of computer science people who have that background are going into. And yeah, so that is also.
So also adding to that, apart from design, there are also product design, wherein step back and you think like designer would tend to think more about the consumer side of the research. But when you come into the product design, you think from a company's perspective. So you have two major stakeholders. One would be your consumer, and then other would be your company. So apart from just thinking about how the design is affecting the users, you tend to think more also from the business side ki, And does this strategy fit into the future plans of the company? And is this affordable for our company? Does it align with the business of the company?
Okay, so all in all, if you could like just summarize like what all the role titles are also there, so I think that would help us to know.
Okay,
So
so
I
yeah, Chanchal, go ahead.
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
So regarding the roles, I think because everybody is still sort of trying to make sense of what to include in what role. So with design industry, I especially feel that because say for example a person hired with interaction design could be called the interaction designer within their company, but actually would be doing user experience in totality and not just working on the nitty gritty of micro animations or interactions. A product designer could very well be also working on copy. So I know it would be a very vague answer, but it depends on company to company because some companies are trying to be very specific when they hire.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But the titles that you would usually see is, yeah, you have mentioned it right: UI designer, UX designer, visual designer, illustrator, motion designer, interaction designer, UX writer, design evangelist, as Amya mentioned, product designer. So all of these, like sort of overlap with each other, but sometimes you will find roles that are very specific. So if it depends on you, if you want to do like a breadth of all the processes that you do within design, you could go for a generic role, or ask for that when you get hired. But if you want something very specific, for example just motion design, or I just want to do coding for information design, so you could look for those roles also,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Okay, so I think they are more company specific. Like every company will have different
Yeah,
rules
I
and
think
stuff.
I think that is something we can see in this panel as well. So Chanchal and Bhavna are UX designers, but I am called an experience designer because that's what IBM goes for. So it's but we both might be doing the same work. It all comes under the same umbrella of UX design. But something like UX research is very specific. You can't find a lot of things under UX research. You just have to do anything and everything. But with UX design, you might be a UI designer, you might be an interaction designer, you might be a visual designer and be called a UX designer. So that
Yeah, yeah. So when you go into the company, they have within the company they have specific roles. Like suppose my title is a UX designer, but within the company it is like a UX designer specializing in interaction design. So for other people, it might be UX designer specializing in information design or GUI part or any other part.
And I think one last thing to add would be it also depends on the scale of the company. If you're going into a startup and you're the only one UXer, you might be wearing all these hats and doing it all. The bigger the company gets, the more siloed the roles start becoming. So for from like the current audience, like students, and if you're thinking into getting into the field, like broadly think about like yeah, design, research, writing, high level, and then within those these specializations will really depend what scale of company you end up at.
Okay. So with this, I will go on to our next slide. That is the design work that is there in industry. As in, with this, we have some questions from the audience also, like how are your teams composed? Who does what? And in terms of like, do you perform qualitative studies? Do you program? Do you spend most of your time in graphic design and all such things? Right. First is this.
So I could share how
Yeah,
it's in
yeah.
IBM because IBM is a more client-facing company. So this the team composition depends from client to client. So I have worked on two projects till now. The first was a rather research-based work. So I had to conduct interviews with users. I had to conduct workshops with users. But what I'm doing currently is more on the graphic design side. So I'm designing dashboards right now. All the research has already been done by the business people. We have to find our insights from that. Plus, given the entire COVID situation, we can't really go out and conduct the studies right now. So whatever is already there, we're building up on that and trying to conduct some remote testings if it's possible. But yeah, it entirely depends on the project that you're handling, at least in the client-facing companies. But what I've noticed is there will always be one senior designer on your team and a lot of junior designers. So the labor work will be given mostly to the junior designers because they'll be the one who will be who'll be doing more of the laborious work, and the entire management happens at a higher level. So that's what I have noticed.
Okay.
Might be different for other organizations.
I think from a so I'm right now at Google, and before this I was at Dropbox, and at both the places, usually a team broadly we used to call this EPD, like a three prongs tool, which is engineering product design. So every team will have definitely have like some engineers or product managers. So product manager used to be a role that I had no idea about all through Triple IT, and only when I entered the industry I learned that's also a thing. So it's essentially a product manager is owning one product, which could be, let's say, an entire app if you're at a startup, but it could be a feature if you're at a bigger company. So imagine at Google, if I work on a product called Google Go, which is basically the main Google app, but designed for people with low tech literacy. So on Google Go, we have one product manager. I am the UX designer. We have a senior designer, and like a bunch of 10 to 12 engineers and a UX researcher. So that makes one pod of a team. But let's say if we want to get like UX writing support, we have a common agency style, like some writers who would assist a lot of different teams. And yeah, like if some teams which are, if you're heavy on visual design, then you may hire a visual designer as well. But broadly, like one researcher, a few designers, and like PM and engineers would make like that bigger team at Google and at Dropbox as well.
At so I work with Make My Trip, and what happens here is very similar to the pod system. That my direct stakeholders are the product manager. One thing that we have here is, so because we have a lot of business lines, which is transport, flights, hotels is separate, activities, experience. So there are designers segregated into these teams, so you have the full ownership of the product that you work with. Uh, we do have a manager that we report to, of course, but they're also very like hands-on in the business line that we work with. And yeah, so it's essentially about building rapport with the product manager, the engineers, and working for that one business line.
Yeah, so currently I'm working at Samsung. So basically, we have a design team of around 60 people, and it's divided into three parts. So one group does UX innovation, the other part is the product innovation, and then we have one team called CMF. They see the entire color, material, and finish. So together, the three teams work on a single product. So we don't really have a product per se because Samsung Electronic have multiple products. So we are working in digital appliances also, mobiles, TVs also. So depending on the kind of project that we are having, the team is constituted. So there's no defined team per se. So suppose, as you mentioned, copywriting. So I worked on one project where we were looking how to localize the content for Indian audience. So basically the Hindi user interface. So that was basically trying to audit the UX content of the entire phone. So in that, depending on what the project is, your team would, so this was a research heavy project. So most of the people were UX researchers and a couple of UX designers. So, and we work very closely with the team at Gurgaon. They handle the marketing and the product innovation, and then one team from SRI Noida, which handles the technical. So basically one team constitute of one person from marketing, also one person from product innovation, also research, also UX designer, also, and the tech person to understand the feasibility of the product. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think you have shared also the knowledge of other design roles. I guess if you want to add on some, if you know about other design roles and in your company and what do they do, or if it's covered.
So as I mentioned, in our company, we also have industrial designers who look more to the hardware and finish of the entire product. So suppose if we are coming up with a new television or a new mobile phone for different premium segments or mass segments, so they all look into those things. They usually do a trend analysis of the audience, and then they come up with what is the current trend and how So basically, at the start of the day, they usually plan what is the trend and how the product should look. So that is the role of industrial designers. And the CMF team, which is the color material finish, they usually work in the segment of pure graphic design. So they usually look at patterns, and like suppose if we're designing a refrigerator, they would come up with the thing with things like what sort of wallpaper should be there on the refrigerator, what kind of finish should be there, should there be textures or not, and all those kind of things.
Okay, okay. Makes sense, yes. Any Amya or Bhavna, Karan, if you want to.
I am thinking that there was one design role that I think, sort of off track from the product kind of thinking, which I've seen that design people almost quite a lot are also shifting into marketing design, which is very typical graphic design that you see, which could be branding for a campaign, social media, collaterals, and things like that. So I think it is that. But yeah, that's also there as an option.
Okay. Okay, then I'll move ahead, and then next question is that, like, how valuable is a UX designer at the places you work, and what about a UX researcher? Like, there's still confusion with people in college.
You've touched upon a very sad note. But I think it depends on the kind of company you're working. At IBM, we have a separate line at all altogether, which is IBM iX, which is for interaction experience. So I think, yeah, we are valued there, but in companies where you're focusing a lot on business. So I used to work with BCG before this, which was a completely client-facing company. There, I did realize they did not value designers as much as they valued the business people, because at the end, we were considered the people who will just color it and it will all become beautiful and the client will agree to it. But here, I think they value your research inputs and your design inputs more. So yeah, I think that's there. It depends on how much value you can create for yourself at work than how much they're giving.
I really agree to that point because it's always a little fight, and also because for a lot of people, they've never heard of design. They see it as a team for the first time when they come to office. That there's something called a product designer, or it'll be like 3-4 years that before that they found out. So, uh, I think design in generally struggles everywhere where you have to, fight for that seat on the table, which we call it. Like you want to make this, you want to help make decisions, and you want to sit
Yeah.
across business people, and you want to have a say. Uh, and because like the understanding is not that nuanced about what exactly entails in the design process, I think there's still some way. But of course, there are companies, I think Karan would be able to shed light on that. But there would be companies, I'm pretty sure, that who value design, who are known that they value design. But I think leadership everywhere is still, trying very hard that in smaller companies also and in startups and design gets a seat at the table, and you have to fight for it. I think anybody who wants to have a say has to, make their place be you make your own way.
Yeah, I think to build on that, so I've been lucky that the two places where I've worked, GoPro and Dropbox and Google, have been really good in terms of valuing design. But I was at GoPro before that, where it was not as much, and there was all these conversations of having a seat at the table. And essentially, with GoPro, the designer would come at the very end of the process where everything is decided. You know what feature to build, you know what value it will get, and they would just bring in the designer to be like, okay, add color and typography to it and just give us the final output, right? Like not having the opportunity to think through what was the problem, why are we doing this, why is this important. But Google and Dropbox as well have been good in terms of they have this ethos of focus on the user, and because of that, like designers don't have to explain their value. It is pretty much in the system where design is an equal part of decision making as product management and engineering, and you have to contribute equally, and people value um, going after what the users want, and that helps like bring that culture in. And same thing, I think your follow-up question is what about a UX researcher? So again, like if a company values design in general, they would value both design and research because it is like kind of very closely interlinked. A designer can only do their job once they know what the users want, and that is something that a UX researcher comes back with. So yeah, I think some companies I've seen are struggling with bringing that value. But again, it's like you have to be there. You have to show that. A lot of times the question is what is the business value for design, and you need to quantify the impact. Where a lot of times you would prefer, I don't know, Swiggy over Zomato just because the design is better, right? So you can actually bring more business to the company and more like money because that's ultimately what businesses care about more, right? And if you can tie your designs to that, like, hey, my design can actually bring more attention, bring more users, then people start valuing it more.
Uh, okay, so like with this, I have a follow-up question. So, as in, are you trying to say that like the UX researcher? The one follow-up question is that the UX designer and UX researcher could be intermixed in some companies. Is that so? Like, as in, like researcher means to find the needs of people, and the designer could also do that in some firms. So that is the
Yeah, I think it depends. Like some places, yes, like it is very closely linked. There will be two people who one is responsible for research, one is responsible for design. I think of it as a Venn diagram. Like there is this intersection. There is some role where even the designer is thinking about what to ask. They're also maybe sometimes conducting these sessions, and the researcher is also contributing in design. But like you have your own expertise, and there are things that you specialize in. But again, like I said before, if you're at a startup and you're the only UXer or the design person in the company, or like two people, then they don't even differentiate between a researcher and a designer. You're just doing it all. But as the company matures, the role starts being like very separate.
okay. Okay.
Also adding to that, in a lot of, yeah, it totally depends on the company. In a lot of companies I've seen, they go for niche roles. Like they would not ask for a UX researcher. They would specifically ask for a person whose expertise is ethnographic studies. So they would probably put the title as an ethnographer, or even in UX researchers, like I have a friend at Atlassian. He was telling me they have two kind of UX researchers. One who works in the team and in the design process, and the other person with the product. And the other person who's a UX researcher, they usually work with design strategy, as in more from the business perspective, as in what is the speculative design that could be aligned with their business. So they look more towards the future needs of the company, and that is how they research. And some people, they work in the process, in the design process, like usability studies and all sorts of things.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for this. So now next question is like if you could comment on the scope of design career in India.
That's a very tricky question.
I think there is a huge scope though because a lot of startups are coming up. Even the design roles are becoming because companies are understanding the importance of design day by day. So there is a requirement for sure, like of designers in startups and bigger companies and medium-sized companies everywhere. In fact, so I mean, and scope could also be multifaceted. So I'm not like very sure of what part. Like, will you get a job or like what is the question here
Um,
exactly?
yeah, I think in terms of like surviving a design career throughout our like.
Then definitely there's a huge scope, because like as Bhavna already mentioned, people are realizing the need for design. So like I have a favorite quote I read somewhere in designer conference where they were saying, design makes tech edible. So like the companies,
Hmm.
there are a lot in a single domain, just travel or just holiday, you'll see a lot of companies. So design is the thing that differentiate these companies, and the company that gives the best experience tend to survive more. So if this is the perspective, then designers have a long way to go in developing, the entire product. And as I think everyone mentioned here, designers are rightfully finding their place on the decision-making table. And if
Yeah.
it still is the case, then design surely has a future.
Yeah.
And I think to add to that, so I remember as I graduated from Triple IT in 2014, and I was trying to break into like being a UX designer, and it was very hard to find a job, especially in India because there weren't a lot of opportunities. But now I think there is this situation is much better, and one clear trend that I saw, like for instance, Google India, we have had the office, like Google has been in India for about 15 years. The number of UXers until like 2 years back, 2 to 3 years back was like about 3 to 4, and now UX India overall, including UX research, UX design, UX engineering as well, which is another field, is about 50 people. So there are so many UXers in Google working on so many different products, and I've seen that across other companies as well. So one is like value of UX is increasing, and in general, I think tech in India is growing, so that also contributes to it. There are much more companies, much more startups here, and again, value of design is big.
Yeah, so I think it's like even with the tech jobs, the design jobs are also like on the similar lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when tech is increasing, design would, because you need somebody to decide what goes where, how does it act, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so next is like some if someone how to choose between freelancing and a secure job if someone has to do. So like how if someone should start with freelancing or should someone start looking for a job or what, what should you do?
I personally think it completely depends on what the person's
Yeah.
goal is in the long time. There's no correct answer or wrong answer here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I could be having a fully secure job and still would feel, I think I'm missing something. So I
Yeah,
just be like, I just do 2 or 3 freelance jobs and see where I want to land eventually in 2 3 years. It keeps changing in your head. Okay, I might be doing UX design right now, and I'll be like, what if I get into research? It'll be so much fun and this. So I'll just pick up one freelance project and I'll be like, no, no, no. I think I'm fine with UX design. So
Yeah.
I don't think, yeah, as Chancel said, there is no right or wrong answer to this. It's entirely on you.
And I
Where
think
you
grass is always greener on the other side. When you have a job, you feel like, "Arey, freelance hota to it would have been like fun." But I think one way, if you're really confused, right, that do you want a full-time corporate job working for a product or you want a freelance working for different kinds of brands, I think the middle ground, I'm not sure, like the others can correct me, uh, would be to maybe work in a service company, because you get a taste of almost everything in like a span of few years. You work on enterprise, you work on product, you work on B2C, B2B, and stuff like that, so you can probably like know what you want.
Okay.
Yeah, even I think to build on Bhavna's point, design agencies. So I worked at an agency called RGA, which would work with different clients, get a project for let's say 6 months, and then you can jump on another client. So one of the clients was Nike. I worked on that, and then there was some other products that they were working on. And even I think within product companies, if you're in a bigger company, there's so many different products that you can jump around and try different things. Yeah, but again, it really depends, and I agree with every point that was made that you always keep like jumping between the two, and you feel maybe I don't need like this 9 to 5 job. I could do my own thing, and the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the fear is that, with freelancing, what if you don't get a client, right? How do you pay the bills ultimately? And for that, I think if you have the, desire to really go for freelancing, that you really are not cut out for that 9 to 5 or whatever corporate job, there are quite a few platforms that are up and coming that help you get clients from all over the world, or there are platforms that help you compete as a freelancer and also getting gig jobs. So yeah, maybe you can explore that for some time.
Yeah,
I
I
actually
think
have something
for
to add to
starters it
this
is good.
is if you're working in a service company that is client facing, that also adds to a lot of your client networks. So if you're ultimately wanting to become a freelancer, it's always good to start your career with a service company, build your rapport with a lot of clients so that you know that, you know, if after 5 to 10 years I have to go independent, I still have a lot of contacts to go to. So that's also one.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I think freelancing could be done also if someone wants to just boost up their profile for some, like, for some duration. It's good. Yeah. Okay. So next is that is design lucrative as a field in India? Like money wise, how is it?
I think it's like any other job. Once you start, you will struggle, and eventually you just start earning enough. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like as the role of design is maturing, even the kind of money packages that people are giving to designers is also increasing. So yeah,
yeah. I think like at least UX design and product management and engineering. If I look at those three, this is definitely like, don't quote me on this, but usually what I've heard is, or usually when you rank the pay, if I were to say, like PMs would be paid the most, and then maybe engineers, and then designers. That is the ladder. That is the truth. But that doesn't mean that design pay is not good. Like these are pretty much like they would be at par or in the similar range. And again, to everyone's point, like if you prove yourself, if you're doing a good job, if you're a good designer, you will grow and you will get paid well. But sometimes when you start off, there is that comparison. But again, like PM starting off and engineering starting off, they would also feel the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I what I have felt that when you're out of college, right? I think it would the gap would not be that much. You might be paid less, but because as designers you're almost known for storytelling or selling your thing, you can get a really high jump when you shift because you need to sell yourself as a brand, and you know that you bring something to the table. I think you can get that jump or even more. I think when you shift.
yeah. I think I
Yeah.
completely agree with Bhavna and would like to stress on what she said. Completely makes sense.
One thing, Ayushi, we're getting questions on chat. Do you want to take them later or as they're coming in?
I think you can take a few of them if you want, because I am not able to access the chat.
Um,
Okay, so I'll just read the first question. What is expected from a UX researcher besides doing user studies? Also, what qualifications are expected from them generally?
I think, yeah, this we can answer in this slide only. So let's come to this only,
Sure.
and which is that what are the requirements of these design roles, and like what is enough for a design role in terms of skill, expertise, or stuff like this. Yeah, exactly what he's asking. So
So I think I can start on this one. I think it really depends on how you sell yourself as. You could be two people from the same qualification per se. Like for example, I was hired from campus and everybody was sort of coming from a master's in design degree. But people went for different roles based on the things that they highlighted in their portfolio when you're creating one. So if you want to go for interaction design, you highlight that you work on, you can work, you can really pay attention to the detail of nitty gritties of in like micro animations, or you have the sense of how they should be animated, or you have the skill to create that animation quickly. You can go for UX experience, a generic role as well, when you show a understanding of you can really transform insights from research, or if you highlight research processes and the understanding of that, I think you can be hired or a position can be created for if you're really convincing that you can really bring that.
Yeah. Like it completely depends on how you present your portfolio. So they would see what your stronger point is, and they would consider you for that role. Also, I've seen in a lot of interviews, if you don't really have a specific inclination towards any profile, they tend to analyze you during the interview and then tell you that maybe you'll fit for an interaction designs role or a researcher role or a GOI role or something.
Okay, so as in like for a like UX designer, let's say, like what exactly qualities are they looking for? Something in that sense. Is
I can share one of the frameworks that so Dropbox had a very robust hiring framework, and they would rate designers that they're hiring on five main skills. So first was product thinking, which essentially means it is not about design. It is more about can you think about like why should a thing be built, what is the business use case, and stuff like that. That's product thinking. Then the second aspect is interaction design. That's purely looking at how you're thinking about interactions, flows, wireframes, and stuff like that. Third would be visual design. So that's very specific on color, typography. Um, the fourth one is prototyping. So because every design, like there is some sort of motion in it, you are like, can you prototype? Can you use the different prototyping tools, or do you always work in static screens? And the fifth one is design process. So do you have a clear, like, do you think of research first, then you go wide, you try different explorations, you narrow down, you decide what you want to go with. So those used to be the five skills we would rate a person we are hiring. Like on those five aspects, and then the scale would be beginner, intermediate, and advanced. We would say, okay, the person is a beginner visual designer, but maybe is like has a very good design process, so it's more of an intermediate to advanced design process. And based on those five ratings, we would assign them a level. So we'd be like, okay, this person is good for a like a L3 or a more starting designer. But if everything is intermediate, we'll say, oh, maybe this person can go for a senior designer role. So that's something like a very concrete example of how evaluation happens.
So building on what Karan was saying, I think when companies are hiring you, they don't really look for all the academic work you've done. They also have their own design tasks that they give you, and those are very specific to the requirements they are looking for. So there can be companies who are only looking for researchers. So they will give you an assignment that where they're not looking for your visual designing expertise. They're looking at how good you are as a researcher. So it depends on how well you perform there than anything else. I think that's when they start jotting you down. Like,
Yeah. Also, just adding to that, if you're looking to apply for very niche companies, like previously I interned at Siemens, they were very specifically looking for people who had a background in engineering. So people, because they have a very tech-oriented portfolio, the products that they have. So they wanted people who would also understand the feasibility of the products that they're building. So they specifically were looking for people who had a background in computer science or mechanical engineering, probably. So it depends on the company also. So if it's a niche company, probably they'll be looking for that knowledge also.
So, for people who are just going, I agree that every company has their own framework. But what I've seen, especially in medium-sized company, is that, when they're hiring for juniors, especially, one, they look for, it also depends whether you're coming from a non-design background or a design background, because they expect more when you're coming from a design background. You've studied, different either elements of design principles. Do you know what, certain phrases mean, terms mean? But when you're, say, coming for a very fresh role, you're right out of college, they also look for, okay, okay, just do you have the basic understanding of the design process? Right, and if that is done very nicely and very, thought, like, well thought through, I think that is also enough to get you through the, like, just the screening and get you into the first round. And after that, it also depends on how you again explain your project, how well you can, how much did you show in the portfolio, and then how much extra do you have to show while you're interviewing there. So I think, like, if nothing else, if no jargon or no extra stuff, you really need to work on your projects very well, and show that you have the at least basic understanding of design process, and then you can be taught. Basically, you have that potential.
Also bringing Bhavna's point that she mentioned earlier here, the way it's different from many different other roles like engineering interviews is that you really have to sell yourself as a designer in the interview or like the role you're applying for. So that is how they won't ask you questions. You really have to tell them themselves why they need to hire you as a designer or what are your capabilities as a designer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think one thing to add to that, which I always used to compare with the engineering friends, was like as an engineer, you may have to study before an interview. Like a lot of times, designers, we don't study
Yeah.
before going for an interview, right? Like you have a portfolio, you have your projects, you know your stories, what story you want to go and tell, and you just, like everybody's saying, sell yourself and convince why you can do the job. And it's a lot of like collaboration. Even these interviews are you're whiteboarding with the person who's taking your interview, so it's hard to even prepare for that. And you usually yeah, just go and present yourself.
Hmm. Okay, I think this was very well answered. And next we have this higher education, or is BTech in computer science design enough? So for this, I think firstly let's talk about your MTES and the MS in HCI abroad. So like in terms of like how does it fare with respect to curriculum fund placements, uh, you could go ahead and even share your experience as well, and what the cons, faculty, etc.
I think we can all go one by one explaining because
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
all from different institutes.
Yeah, exactly. Only the seat could be, yeah, I think three people are common. Yeah, sure, start.
I think one common question that everyone would have gotten in the interview is why did you shift from computer science to design, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly explain the admission process here. So MDes in uh, NID is through their own design aptitude test. You have a design aptitude test. Then after you clear, after a certain cutoff, you are called to the campus, and there you have a studio test, which is basically subject specific. So the design aptitude test is more like a general aptitude test, and the studio test is more like a specific. So if you're applying for interaction design, most of the questions will be related to interaction design. Then after that, you have a personal interview wherein they usually look at your portfolio. So these are the three processes there. And at NID, in most of the subjects, we usually place a great focus on the design process. So usually the outcome is not as much important as what the process we followed. So most of the subjects or topics are told us like that only. And for the kind of things that we're taught, so I was in interaction design. It's a mix of hands-on knowledge in you would get to learn about Arduino also, because in interaction design prototyping is a very important part of the product. So we were also taught about design research in detail. We were taught about human behavior in detail, usability testings, and we also explored a lot of emerging technologies like AR, VR, and digital gaming, and all sorts of things.
Hmm. Okay.
I can talk about the experience I had. So I went abroad to the US. I did an MS in HED. HED stands for Human Centered Design and Engineering. It is a particular acronym that University of Washington uses. It's not standardized, and I don't know why they use this, but the standard one is HCI, and that's what you usually go for. So points here, I think curriculum wise, I can talk about ECD and how it was. So essentially the cohort that people like the people who come into the program, there was a very equal split of people coming from three different disciplines. So like it was literally like 33% people would have done a bachelor's in something related to computer science. The rest one third would have done something related to like psychology or research or stuff like that. And the other one third would be people who would have done something related to art and design. And these are all like all people come together to then transition into something more of a digital product designer or a UX researcher kind of role. So the curriculum is also like that, where what do you want out of the program? You could take more electives in that domain. Similar to triple IT, I would say, when you start thinking about, okay, like, do you want to go more on the hardware side, software design, whatever. So you could think about like research, design, and what specialization you want to do, and take more courses like that. Um, Fun. I mean, yeah, like I think all master like all programs are fun, and in general, college is more fun than work for sure. I definitely would college, but one thing is like masters is a little more hectic than like bachelor's. Honestly, like triple IT was hectic enough. I remember that too. But yeah, like masters, you're sometimes like more overloaded with work. But yeah, I would say like exactly like triple IT, not very different. And placement wise, so in the US, the concept is a little bit different. Companies don't like, you don't just write tests and you just like, companies don't come to campus to recruit you. There is a career fair, which is more like you still have to go and sell yourself. You need to have your resume and like your portfolio, go talk to people, network. But nobody will tell you that, hey, this company is coming, go talk to them. So it's a lot on yourself. You have to figure it out. But also like those career fairs were not very useful, to be honest. Like my job that I got was just reaching out to people on LinkedIn, trying to network, and I had to apply to a lot of different places before I got what I got. But yeah, so I think it's overall, I mean, a good experience. And again, like if you don't have a design background already, so for me, I was going from triple IT, so I was going from a computer science degree. Then it's a great way to learn the right kind of design process. And I think to Chanchal's point, it is about the process more than the output. You don't really learn how to use Photoshop or how to use Sketch, but you learn how to think in a way that can be applied to any kind of a problem. So it's design thinking that you learn, and then you can apply it however.
Okay. Yeah.
I think with IIT Guwahati, it's a little different than NIT or IIT Bombay because we did not have specialization, and like the students were not divided. Within bachelor, there are like a 40-person batch, and with masters for both years, there was a 24, 25 kind of batch. And people were coming from BFA, architecture, chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer science engineering, and like all over the place. So it was sort of nice to have everybody in the same studio where people would be either working on branding, illustrations, some are working on, interaction design, some are working on tangible products or, things like that. So you get to interact with everybody. With respect to curriculum, very similar to triple ID again, because first year was all core courses. So you have to complete them, which were either visual design, theory of design. We also did ergonomics, form studies, and stuff like that. On second year, like from starting out second sem, actually, we had electives which were interaction design. You could do usability engineering, which was very core theory about design and usability. Uh, People who were interested in animation could do those courses. There were courses about product processes and building that collaboration. We also had design management courses. So it's very varied and depends on which area do you want to go through, or what kind of uh, build that you want to have on your like as a coursework. About the fun, I think there's quite a lot of that there, just with any college life that there is. With placements, I think, especially for masters, it's a little. I was talking to somebody that masters is a little more competitive than a general bachelor's would be, because everybody is very much focused what they're there for. Some people are right after college, or some people are coming after 5 years of maybe job experience, and they're actually looking to study more or get a better job, and everybody has their own goal of why they're coming. With IIT Guwahati, as soon as you enter, within 2 months, you have your internship process that starts happening, and companies start coming in, which almost goes through the whole first semester. and a little bit in the second semester as well, as long as the summer vacations don't start. And in for the placements in IIT Guwahati, we have it around uh, as soon as your third semester ends, and it's like about a 7, 8, 10 day of three batches, 3 to 4 companies in each batch. So there are 12 companies in one day, and yeah. So I think it's a
Yeah.
little like that.
Yeah.
So I can talk about IIT Delhi's curriculum here. It's
Yeah.
pretty much similar to what Guwahati has, where we don't have specialized streams for interaction design or animation. It's called Masters in Degree in Industrial Design. So we had a total of 15 people in our batch, and we don't have bachelors in IIT Delhi, only masters in design. So people were coming from chemical and civil and mechanical, computer science, architecture. We had one person who had done her bachelor's in design from NIT, so that she was one of the first people that was ever taken, because they prefer not taking people who've done
Oh,
bachelor's in
okay.
design. I have no clue why, but that is something they have in mind. And so the curriculum is pretty similar to what the other IITs have, just that I think every other IIT also has this semester-based project wherein you have to pick up one topic you want to make your entire project on, and that entire semester you work on that specific project under one professor. They usually prefer you working under different streams, so that after at least 1 year you know where you want to specialize in. And what IIT Delhi has a little different is your final semester can be your internship semester, where you can work in the industry for 6 months. I worked with BCG. We had people working in automobile industry with Gartner. So it was a mix of product design as well as interaction design. And again, the placements happen after your third semester, how it happens everywhere. And the fun is always there. It's Delhi at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think Seed, Bhavna and I can take up separately, but
Yeah. So yeah, maybe you can start.
okay, so it's for Seed, we have one exam that's Seed, and then after that, specific you get your rank and your score, based on which in different IITs you will have your cutoff, so you can apply to those IITs, and then they have their own studio tests and followed by interviews, and then you get your final call from that college. It's a pretty hectic 2, 3 months that
Yeah, it
you have to
seems.
keep traveling from IITs to IITs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bhavna can talk
Okay.
about that traveling. I can go to a lot of interviews. She went to a lot. So.
Yeah, so I applied to Kanpur, Bombay, and Guwahati. So preparational seed, uh, I, I I do not want to undermine the exam because there is a lot of preparation that is required. You have to study aptitude, which is paper A. If you pass the cutoff in paper A, then only your paper B gets evaluated, which you did like in the same time. So you really have to. So aptitude had general design knowledge. So I remember I studied about the architecture, historical architecture of temples in India, people in design, what did they do, general revision of maths aptitude, and just to get that right. Paper B was again divided into different streams. So interaction design, I remember, had the question that if you are designing a, I think, airport, nahi,
RTO was
passport kuch, something, you have to design a kiosk basically for a person who has not ever photocopied, who has never used any technology. So it has to be there in that one machine. So interactions has to be specified. There was a sketching kind of question. So there is like, you decide on which out of the 5 questions you want to answer, and that is whole of your paper B for that, like
the
what
paper
the
B
number of
also has an
marks.
option whether you want to answer for the interaction design question or the
Yeah.
product design or animation. Even storyboarding is there. That's a totally different for all the animation people. And for
Yeah.
paper A, I think another thing was to learn a lot about artists and their paintings, because that's also one of the questions that keeps popping up.
Yeah.
So one of the ways of preparing for seed is to go through your previous year questions, because sometimes they are repeated if you are
Yeah.
Indian. So
The pattern is sort of same, but you, yeah, go through the past 10 years. You can get it online. You can also, there's a blog. I'm not sure of the name, but there is a
Inca
season
blog.
preparation. So regarding the interview process within IIT Kanpur, you go and you get your schedule of when you are supposed to interview, and there's a panel again where you just show the portfolio and that's it. With Bombay, the
Kanpur didn't have the studio test.
Kanpur, yeah, Kanpur did not have. It was a direct interview for all the shortlisted kids. For Bombay, based on so they ask you for three preferences: one, two, and three. What's your first, second, and third? Based on these three, you answer a paper for all of these three, and then you have interview with all of these three as well. And there's always that question that why did you choose these three? So they have to be very careful. The max is three. You can also choose just one. If you're very dedicated, you can choose two if sort of okay here and there. With the portfolio round for each of these like streams, they ask you with like you need to have projects then specifically catered to this. For example, with interaction, I remember it was a Google Glass kind of question that it's for, you have to design, oh no, not a Google Glass, you have to design something for the blind to travel in Indian traffic. The context is very specific. The use case, they are providing you with, and then you can, sorry, the user group they are providing, then you can think of different use cases as to, when they have to cross a road or when they have to just navigate or things like that. So yeah, so then they discuss your portfolio one, which has to be specific to that field, and second, they discuss the studio test with you as to why you did that. Then IIT Guwahati, there was two studio tests, like one followed by the another of about 1.5 hours each. There, the question that we had in our year was one, just write a story from one name, one animal, one thing, and one place. So using these four things, and then in the next 2 hours, your paper was taken, and you have to now storyboard the whole story that you wrote in the first 2 hours. In the interview, again, they see your portfolio. They ask you about the fields that you're interested in, and just something. So, for example, I was doing calligraphy at the time. They asked me to calligraph right in front of them, or what I need to, what I would like to learn in type, and things like that. So, yeah.
Something that is different with IIT Delhi's studio test is that because they're more focused on industrial design, so their studio test is more to do with modeling. So they will actually give you a paper and they will give you a problem statement. So my problem statement was to design a trolley for a user that has no hands. So how will we be carrying that trolley? So and you have to first design that trolley on paper, to sketch it out, your entire thought process, and then you have to model that trolley with a paper. I think I realized very late that they're not actually looking for your final outcome. They're actually looking for how you came to this design.
Mm.
So even during the interview, they just saw my model and they kept it at one side and they were like, "Why did you do this? Why was there a strap? What was the need of the strap?" They will literally roast you. That is the word. They will roast you as if you know nothing. But then you just have to be very strong that I thought in this direction because there was some logic behind it. So they actually don't look at how finished your product is.
Actually, roasting reminds me that if you're planning to go into a design, you need to have sort of a thick skin already.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, true. For juries.
something that was very stark was I still remember one of the engineering projects I did in Triple IT that only TA checked and the professor did not even see it, and it was half done, but we still got the grade. But in juries, when you show your project, or even the slightest of projects, you will be, asked कि ये क्या है मतलब
And you
add
should
you
make sure that like the dumbest of the questions. And you just have to act like, oh my god, this is such an intelligent question and I'm going to answer this. You just have to do it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think
I'm not sure that if that happens in MSHCI, but I've heard about it, especially in MS.
I'm just
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. For
I'll
that.
just quickly add a couple of points for NID.
Yeah.
So there's a key differentiator. So our MNES is for 2.5 years and not 2 years. And for 2 years, we have all the academic courses in college. And the last semester we spend in the industry doing our graduation project. So like the thesis project, we have our graduation project and we usually do with the industry. So I interned at Siemens, so that is, we don't have any other internship per se, but we, that is considered an internship and also your thesis. And I think someone asked, so I'll just quickly answer about the placements. It's just like other IITs, all sorts of companies, be it tech related, product related, all sorts of companies visit NID, and it's the same as the scene is in the general design circle. So yeah.
One quick point on, I know there's a second question on 1 year and 2 year, and I have a strong opinion, and that's why I wanted to say this. Especially for the US, definitely try for a 2 year. 1 year, the challenge is, especially if you're going right after triple IT, because we were 3, 4 people who went right after triple IT, and the folks who went into a 1 year program struggled a lot to find a job there. And like, because you don't have any internship, and then you try to find a job, you have zero experience, and you have spent like so much money to go there, and sometimes you have to come back. But with a 2 year or a 1.5 years, so MSHCD at University of Washington is a 1.5 year program that gives you a chance to intern, which like helps in a lot of ways, because only then you kind of, when you interview for your first job, you have some real industry experience. Because yes, I mean, there are new grad roles, and people are open to hiring people from college, but in reality it does become very difficult if you have not worked in the industry and trying to break in. So even like one internship or one project that is from a real world product can really help you a lot. And just last thing on the process, it's all through GRE, MS in general, like wherever you're going. And there's a statement of purpose where you would write why you want to go and do design.
Yeah.
Also, so regarding MSHCI, I know it's USA majorly. There are other options if you're interested in MDes in India. You can also explore. I did not know at the time there are MDes colleges otherwise as well, which are I think SCAD, CCA. They also have a master's program,
Yeah.
and you can explore that if you want to, go to a very design specific and still have a little bit of computing but not focused on that. You could explore that.
Bhavna, could you type that on the chat? I think.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think we'll move it. That was very exhaustive and it was good to hear. So,
Sorry, I think we already covered the session, the questions in the chat because they seem relevant to the discussion right now.
okay, one second. Let me just. Mm, I think we could go from Tanya's question. She. Can you see the chat questions? Tanya's from there. Or should I just speak it out? Uh, okay, I think let me just go through actually the other slide. There are a few questions that will be answered there. And yeah, then I'll come to them. I think let's just our main hello. Yeah, so we would firstly, I think, like to know that what could be the future career options with this BTech computer science and design degree. So because even we have done a lot of courses in this design, and I think people have their portfolios also accordingly. So what do you suggest? Like, how do we go for, is higher education like necessary, or like how to get about jobs after CSD?
I
The first part.
Yeah, so I think back in the day, at least when I was at Triple IT, the only course I had done was HCI from Dr. PK, and that was it. And with that, when I was trying to get a job, it was really hard. But I am not fully aware of the curriculum. But given you are going through a lot of design courses, and also there is a portfolio that you guys have, I would say first, like, try it out, do some sort of like trial interviews, and share your portfolio with us, with folks in the industry. Then that will give you some idea of like whether breaking into the industry right away can happen or not. And mostly I would lean towards the side of, if you have a portfolio and if you think the projects are worth sharing, like, I don't think a master's is necessary. This is my perspective, because I went for a master's because I had no design, let's say, projects experience, knowledge, anything. But if you're getting that in your bachelor's, so especially in the US, a lot of people that I would be working with, nobody had done a master's. Like they would just do bachelor's and start working in the industry right away. It's not like MS will give you something very different. A lot of us, I don't know for others like Bhavna, Chanchal, and Amya, but like at least in my cohort and a few batches after that, we were kind of trying to switch fields. We had only done computer science, and we were like, okay, how do we get into design? We need a master's. But now that Triple IT is giving you that design courses and
Yeah.
the knowledge, like I don't
Yeah.
add this.
No, so you think like we have so they have a chance at getting jobs, because if you can see they have these core courses which you guys have also discussed in between. So
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned that unless you don't have a formal degree and you just want a formal degree, then you would go for MDes or MS in HCI. But if you already had a design education, then I don't think there's need for like in NAD also I've met a lot of people who had a lot of experience and they had a bachelor's degree in design also. So for them, NID wasn't really a learning opportunity, more like an experience and also like a holiday vacation of
One thing that we've been stressing from the start is how you sell yourself. Even if you don't have that MDes degree to, sell yourself that yes, I'm a certified designer, but you have your projects that speak for your talent. I think that's more than enough. For me, I would like to differ from Karan a little because I think DHCS was the course that actually built my portfolio for all these IIT interviews. I could pick up the project, that one project I'd done for DHCS, and I spoke in multiple institutes about it, and that worked as a good project in my portfolio. So yeah, I think it actually depends on how you ultimately make your portfolio and present it to whoever you're presenting, be it a company or your institute. It doesn't really matter if you have that degree or not. I mean, I know a lot of designers in the industry who do not have any formal training. They're self-taught designers, and they're doing much better than most of us. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think like plus 100 to that. Like in general, degrees in design specifically are not valued as much. It is if you have a portfolio, if you have an online presence, if you have good projects, that's all that you need to speak for. Nobody would say, "Oh, you don't have a bachelor's in design, or you haven't done that, so we can't hire you." If you have those strong principles, strong process, then yeah, you don't need a degree per se.
Yeah, and I think one advantage that computer in like science engineers have coming in the industry is one very important aspect of our jobs is building a rapport, understanding, and some of the designers that are not from CS have a struggle understanding the terms engineers say. So you can sort of, have that as an added thing that you understand their language. So you know how to, get things done because I've seen it in my workplace as well because sometimes when I'm sorry I'm saying this in front of like a batch of engineers, but sometimes they say that it's can't be done and I know it can be done because I understand that. So as a designer I can push for my design in a more stronger way because I know it will take a longer time. We can phase it out or anything like that, but I know it's possible. So I speak their language, I understand what they say and what the problems are. I can also use those as constraints when I'm designing because sometimes it can't be done. So I have to take that into account when I'm designing. I know what will be possible, what will not be, and what will be difficult. So keeping in timelines, I can work around and build a rapport with the engineer. So I think that's one very good thing. And
I mean, it's happened with me as well, wherein I'm sending them some design and they'll straight off be like, this cannot be designed. And I'm like, but I know if you do this, it can be. What is the wrong thing here? And then like, okay, fine, oh, you know about this. And then we'll have a discussion. And from going forward, they'll be like, okay, we can't really mess with this one with the computer science aspect because she knows. So it's also about how you make your presence felt in that organization.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of roles where they specifically have they ask for skills like you could prototype in HTML and Java. Front end development is closely related to UX design. So there are a lot of roles in the industry where being a computer science engineer is an advantage, and even companies during interviews they give a high weightage. If that is a tech oriented company, they give high weightage to people who do understand the feasibility of projects that are going to be building?
Yeah, so I remember that when we were hiring recently for UX engineers, which are essentially front end engineers and developers, they were specifically looking that you understand design. So if you really think that you want something to do related to design, but not necessarily go all the way into that field, probably yeah, you could try for UX engineer because you would still be working with UX team. Probably, I think Karan would know better specifically handle that. But we have seen that within UX team also we have a HTML team. So yeah.
One more thing to add from an advice lens. So this helped me back when I was at Triple IT. So Amarjeet sir, I don't know if he's still at Triple IT, but he's not, right. So he gave this one advice. Like in general, this dilemma of should you do a master's or should you just do a job and then do a master's in a few years. His advice was like you should always zoom out and like essentially it wouldn't matter, like it would be 2 years of job and then 2 years of masters, or 2 years of masters then 2 years of job, but in the long run it's more about like understanding and finding what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. So one key thing before going into a masters is, but it's not end all and break all. Like if you don't know, if you're not confident enough, but in general, only do a master's if you really know this is what you want to do, right? Like, and a lot of people jump into it right after undergrad. They're like, oh, we wouldn't get a design job, and we should just do this. And then they're like, oh, maybe this was not for me. So it's okay to try out, try the job, get a feel of it, and then think of doing a master's. I mean, it's ironic because all of us on the panel, I think, directly went, or like mostly we haven't like worked a lot. Like at least I did not. But reflecting back on it, I think I was confident enough that hey, I'm pretty sure this is what I wanted to, and that's why I did the master. But if you're even if that there's some sort of confusion, like take your time. You will definitely, given the courses you guys have done and given you guys your portfolios, you'll definitely find something. And start with that. Start learning what being in the industry is like, and then you'll better know if you really want to invest in spending the money for the masters or not, especially for the US because it does get very expensive.
And I think adding on to that, I was actually thinking that when you don't know, right, what exactly do you want to do, or you really are interested in design, you can actually start anywhere. You can start small because the people who go for masters will have 2 years of masters and then they land into that place. But by the time you have a 2 year experience in the industry as well, so you essentially land up maybe in the same office. So it's really it depends actually in the end how you take it forward.
Yeah, I think so. If there was a question also like, should we be looking for higher studies like India or abroad? In what sense, and what will they get us? And things like what will be the advantages and disadvantages as compared to the already the students who are doing MTech versus pure design and versus us, kind of thing. So
On top of my head, I think the only disadvantage I think is that sometimes some companies, not everybody, because like day by day it's changing in the industry, but they say that we used to talk that because we do not learn something like substantially different from but there is theory to design that you're taught in the master's course. But if you have the understanding and if you keep reading blogs, so there are a lot of websites today like Interaction Design Foundation or Niels and Norman Group blog. If you keep reading, you will also get to know the theory of design. So I think the only disadvantage might be that sometimes, as we have seen in the interview or the like candidates who come in, that you have the process nailed out. But do you have the capability to think deep about each decision that you take? Or is it
yeah.
just like, हाँ, ये feature डाल देते हैं, मतलब in the concept. So you really need to know why you're doing that. And if you can nail that, I think you're at par with design
Yeah.
students.
So one advantage I feel the MTech students or MS students in design have is that they've been rigorously doing the same process over and over again for a lot of
Yeah.
projects. And that can be overcome very easily if you pick up projects on your own. So you do freelance work, or there are a lot of design competitions that are happening these days. So you just build a team, you just go out and do those competitions. After say 5 or 6 competitions, you actually know, this is how the product has to come out, and this is the process I need to follow. And that actually speaks volumes for the kind of theory you already have without actually having a formal degree.
And one more thing that I've seen a lot of people do who kind of don't have that like formal education or masters, like you can just pick up apps that you have been using if you're specifically looking at digital product design and try to like redesign them or look at them and be like, okay, what is not working? Why is it not working? And a lot of the portfolio projects that are put up are sometimes these redesigns, right? And the more you keep doing it, it's also all about practice. That's what it comes down to. If you keep practicing the skill, you will start understanding why a process is important, how is it going to help you. And yeah, if essentially like at the end, if the goal is getting that like job or getting hired, it will come down to your portfolio and your project. So be it masters, no masters,
Yeah.
your BTech projects, like none of it will matter as much.
And I think one thing that you can do in addition to like conceptualizing projects is maybe reach out to somebody, for that particular project and get feedback from a designer in the industry, maybe. So you can sit with one project over an hour or a half if they're willing to do that. And you can get feedback as to maybe they'll question you कि ये क्यों किया, right? Isn't that too obvious? Or you could have something unexpected, or you could have done something different. And that's where maybe you'll have that feedback cycle also going, because sometimes you might not realize that okay, you're doing something wrong when you're conceptualizing. So yeah, maybe you can do that, or do it with your friends if you don't do.
Yeah.
One quick thing to add, one disadvantage I think, like I've reviewed a couple of portfolios, think people who don't have a formal education, they do understand that there's a process, but they don't understand why there's a process. So the thing is, they keep on following that same rigid process in each and every project, the same thing in the same sequence for every project. So unless you have an understanding of why the process is there, you won't be able to modify it depending on the requirement of the project. So that is one advantage formal education gives you.
Yeah, it's the difference between doing an ethnographic study in research, or will it be just done with the user survey right now. So knowing that difference at the like in the industry is very important.
Yeah, okay. I think that's good. Um, Next, we also have like, should one go for a UX related job after like undergrad at a startup or less known place to gain work experience before applying to MS MDes? So, because so I think uh, like
There's no hard and fast you need to have an XP for MDes.
okay.
Yeah, I
Like
think
it depends if you want to, like if everyone was talking earlier, you could give it a shot if you really like that subject or not, and when you're confirmed that you really want to study it properly, then maybe you can go for the MDes or MS.
yeah, I would think of it so like in MBAs, it's much more important the value given to WorkX before getting into one. But for MS, it's not the case. A lot of people do it right after undergrad, which is totally fine. So it's less about the requirement and if the program wants experience, it's more about getting the experience to know this is really what you want to do. And that's how it will help you.
Yeah, and one quick thing to add, I've seen a lot of people who have experience, not a proper experience, but just like giving it a short sort of an experience before MDes. They have to unlearn a lot of things when they enter formally in the MDes program. So it's not that if you've done a job or something that you're perfect at design.
Hmm. So with this, I think there's a question like we will be able like so students will be able to like search on internships and jobs right after BTech after CST as well then, because they have such design courses and portfolio is also designed accordingly, so it is possible to get a job anywhere. So then next we have that for joining corporate HCI research. So is PhD necessary or will MS and HCI do?
I think it depends how deep you want to go into the research. If you want to work in very niche areas of research, probably you would want to have a PhD. But like for starting out, I think MDes or even I've seen people have done bachelors. They're doing proper research in good corporate companies. So it depends. It's just like engineering. You
Hmm.
can go into research even after doing bachelors or after doing PhD.
So if this is about uh, corporate like research that is done in companies, I think you will not need a PhD. But yeah, I agree to Chanchal that if you're looking for research labs like the companies have, then I think in the requirements also they specifically ask that we want a qualitative researcher and they should have a PhD or like
Yeah.
prior
Yeah.
years of experience. I think it's very similar to computer science roles in research, like big name research labs.
Yeah. So I think next is like beyond CST, like there are other branches as well, and people are wanting to come to CS to do design, and they get this exposure by taking courses from what CST people have by taking choosing those electives, and also we work with professors who are in HCI, and we do research. So for us, like so, how to transition from a computer science background to design and HCI, and what's the scope? Basically, you can answer what's the scope for engineers who turn designers.
I think specifically for engineers, if you one are definitely the roles in design that we have been talking about. The other thing which you could try out is uh, information design because there is a high demand of developers who like designers who understand the nuances of design and can do that but can also turn it into prototypes and working like or maybe working websites for the company. So I think that could be one thing.
Yeah, I think to add to that, and I guess Rupal had the same question
Yeah, yeah.
from me at Google, how this is like. So essentially, there are two parts. One is one obviously you can enter as a software engineer into Google, and then eventually transition. And Google is pretty open to letting people. There's a kind of a rotation program. So what you need to do is for about 6 months, you need to try out that other role that you're interested in. So this is not just applicable to you transitioning into UX, but like I could become a marketing person, product manager, like whatever I want to be. But I just need to find a team that's willing to kind of offer that apprenticeship. And if I kind of do well in those 6 months, then I can start my career as the new role that I'm trying to get into. So that's one part. So you could get into as a software engineer and then gradually move, and also work closely with UXers. And the second thing, which Bhavna touched on before, is also um, the what is the program called? So it is just a rotation program. I don't think if it's something that's publicly like if there are any blogs about it, there might be, but it is just something that's internally within Google. And the other thing is a UX engineer that Bhavna talked about before. So that's like the perfect person sitting in between. That's the person who bridges the engineering team to the design team. So the UX engineer would sit in between. They would collaborate a lot with designers to quickly. It's like the quick and dirty prototyping that you want to do. But sometimes your prototyping tools that don't allow you to code are very limiting, and that's when a UX engineer comes in who would actually write front end code which can then be shippable code and can be used by your engineering team to push into the product. Or sometimes it's just for quick and dirty testing. And you work as a UXC, and eventually you can
Hmm.
transition into a pure designer too. So there are all these paths. So yeah, like getting in as a CS, like a engineer into at least some of these big companies, they really nurture you to get to a role that you might fit in better as.
Hmm. Okay, so next is like, how do you make your profile like in CSE stand out amongst all students who have already completed their undergraduate studies in design or HCI? And I think Karan, because you went like from direct after CSE, I think you could answer first.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, one thing, in general, it does come down to your projects that you have done. But one mistake that I used to see, that I still sometimes see with a lot of engineers trying to get into design, when I look at their resume or their portfolio, I still see a lot of just like coding languages, like things that you've done. And because sometimes you're too attached to it and too proud of it as an engineer, you want to highlight that. But to a hiring manager, a person looking to hire a designer, they might just feel this person is more of a software engineer and that's
So,
what they would want to do, right? So try to mute or tone down all the great like languages you know and the programming that you can do, but try to highlight the design work, right? Like even if it is, for me it was one DHCS project and I was like all about it. My resume portfolio started talking more of that, and I was like, screw my Java that I know, screw the Python I know. Like I don't want to talk about that. And once you start positioning yourself like that, then the hiring manager would be like, okay, this person, I know he's coming from a CS background, but they are looking to transition into design. So it goes back to, yeah, like however you want to position yourself, the person hiring will start perceiving you the same way. Same thing goes for research and design. I've seen a lot of people having interest in the UX research role, but all their projects show their design skills. And then I'm just like, wait, why should I hire you as a researcher, right? So think about that, and that will help you kind of make your profile stand out.
okay. So one second, like I get that all four of you have done then DHCS. You had done like only DHCS course as a design project
Yeah.
Exactly.
in your
Yeah.
CSE. Okay, yeah.
So
Huh.
what other thing that you can do is that if you have a lack of either projects, right? So there's this thing that PK sir told me while I was exiting college and making my portfolio at the same time, that you can sell a computer science project also as a design project if you show that you made the decisions right. So what I did was, while I was applying then for internships during my masters, I changed one of my independent projects that did with Vinayak sir into a design project. So it was a full research study plus how I took the decisions was out of what the users wanted and stuff like that. So you can do that. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah, quickly adding one point here. I think one big mistake, not mistake, we do it innocently, but the thing that we do while transitioning to design is we, in during our portfolio interviews and all, we tell them this is what we built instead of telling them how did we build it.
How I did.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so even if you're, as Bhavna mentioned, even if it's your design project or engineering project or computer science project, focus more on how did you go about it and what were the decisions you made and why did you make them. Instead, as designers, we're too proud of showing them, see, this is what we made and isn't it nice? So it's, I think we should focus more on how did we go about it.
So I think what Bhavna was saying, something like that I had done as well. Mine was not more on the visual side of a project, but more to do with the research project I had done under Pathi sir, and it had nothing to do with computer science or design. It was a social science project that I had done under Pathi sir,
Okay.
and I just portrayed that as a research on users, and it came out well. I mean, people understood what I was trying to show. Although that project when I did under Pathi sir was not to understand the users, but I just picked out points from that project showing that this is how I concluded that I can research on users like this. So
Yeah, that's
you could have been doing something else altogether, but it's about how you sell it at that time.
yeah.
One more thing to add would be like, it's okay, like even if you have those computer science projects, right? Like you can uh, reflect on it later and have a section on, hey, like the project ended at this state and maybe it was not great from a design perspective, but I went back and I did these things to make it better. And that also shows that you're open to trying out, like making your design process better. So take your current projects and just do a design riff on it, and you can add that to your portfolio too.
So regarding the resume point that we touched based on, so regarding that, maybe one of the solutions would be, and it's a very simple one, that if you're confused or you want to showcase that you are a coder as well, to showcase that you can code, or you can use these coding prototyping tools, but not as showing Java or C++ because they're not going to be used as a design job. So
Yeah.
maybe make different resumes. So if you want to apply for engineering roles as well, uh, do that separately and make a resume specifically when you apply for UX design jobs. And yeah, say freely that you can code, but don't make it the highlight because that shows lack of commitment, and that happens within research and design as well, as Karan is saying. That, you know, which things you want to do really.
Yeah, okay. So, I think there's this key. What are some skills that are transferable that CSE students can take advantage of and use in design projects if they didn't get a chance to do the design courses in the past? So, and what are some design domains that can make use of these CSE courses? So, any just some points on this?
I think quick prototyping would be of advantage to people who have a background in computer science. I think we've already mentioned this point.
If you've done computer graphics, if I'm not sure if that was the
Yeah,
course, right? So you could go
yeah,
into building 3D by code, or you could go into specifically building 3D, VR, AR. Because I remember that when you do a project with VR, AR,
Yeah,
that happened in our college time, they were expected to code it. So as an engineer, like you have the advantage that you can do that.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So those kind of design fields that are up and coming are also, I think, nice.
Mm-hmm.
One advantage I can think of, not just specifically CSE students, but triple IT students in general, is the varied curriculum that we have, wherein we are also studying social science courses and psychology. That also helps in design a lot. I mean, I know what advantage I have over a lot of people in my batch when I knew psychology, some basics of psychology. That made me stand out when I was trying to explain, this is the point I'm trying to put forth for the research I'm trying to use here. So that is one advantage I do not see in any other college student doing masters. This only triple IT students have, and you should actually take advantage of it more than what.
Yeah. Uh, okay, so I think this is covered, and I would like to ask that is portfolio more important for applying to jobs in India or having a formal design education? Like, for what roles will only portfolio work?
I think portfolio is the most important thing
Yeah,
above
both.
and everything. Yeah.
So I think given that a profile, in the job sector doesn't have the requirement that they have to be design BTech or MTech or such, then only portfolio may work. Is that right? If
I think it's always worth a shot to still apply. Like
okay,
even if
okay,
they're specifically asking for like a design degree, just say that I don't have a design degree, but I can show you that I can still do that job. So yeah,
okay, okay.
And also in general, I would say like this is another high level tip, which is whenever you read those job descriptions, right? Usually what the person on the other side is looking for might be a 30 to 40% match. Like that's the reality. What they put is like, oh, we need somebody with 8 years of experience and they've done like
yeah.
everything. One, that person doesn't exist, and like you would never, it will take you really long to find that, right? So never hesitate from applying. Don't just read a job description and be like, no, 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 I haven't done a bachelor's, I can never do this, or like a master's or whatever. Like just keep trying, and you'll definitely find what you're looking for.
Okay, so this brings us to our portfolio and interview section. So, we would love to have, tips and advice for making or designing a portfolio. So, there's one question also like how to build a good portfolio and what all do we focus on when presenting a project. So, I think it's especially like that in those terms, in the specificity.
I can start on this. So one piece is like in general, if you're worried about should you build your own portfolio, which is like actually coding a website and putting it up versus using something which is more templatized like Wix.com, Squarespace. Don't worry about, I mean, if you have the skills, great, and if you want to do it, but you will not be evaluated on it. The person looking on the other side who's trying to hire you, you might get some bonus points like, okay, this person built their own portfolio, but it will not get you through the door. The most important thing is storytelling when you look at your portfolio. It's like, are you telling the story correctly? Is there a solid design process and like rationale and reasoning behind your design decisions? And yes, usually try to be more visual and less descriptive, to be honest, because like yes, there's a lot of details in every project, but the reality is people spend a minute or two, they will quickly browse through it, they won't read everything, and they just make a decision. Okay, like I get if this person followed the process or not. So how do you make sure that you can take the person through the journey of your project without having them read a lot is like the main part. And there's a lot about just typography and styling of your page, right? Like if you have a big how might be prompt, like maybe that's like bigger in size, and I can follow through the page and quickly understand things you did. More like visual placeholders, and I don't have to read everything to get to understand what you did.
Yeah.
One thing I have realized in a lot of design portfolios is that you need to know how to keep your audience hooked to your portfolio, whatever project you're showing. So it shouldn't be like, so I have most of my projects on Behance. I haven't used any website, but I have to make sure that if someone is going through, say, I don't know, 5 or 6 scrolls of their screen, they shouldn't get bored after the third scroll. I should have something that's bringing them to the main point that, this is what I was designing and I'm still on the process. And this is the 40% of the product made, and now this is the final product here. And it's always good to
Yeah.
have interactive prototypes if you're doing digital projects. So most of the applications that you build, it's always good to add in gifs and how it's animating. You don't really have to show the entire app how it's working, but just one feature, and use like good softwares to do that. I know a couple of softwares like Rotato or something that give you like a 2 second 3 second video of your entire one feature that you're talking about. So yeah, to just use good hook elements in your entire project is good.
Just to quickly add to the prototyping bit, it's also good if you, after you're done with your final product or prototype, quickly you can show the use case scenarios, even if it's one. It would help you actually show how the user for which you've designed, how he is using it. So even like a storyboard, if you could quickly come up with a use case scenario, that would be really good.
I would like to add that because it's written that there's a lot of conflicting advice. I think yes, definitely do read the guidelines that people share about portfolios because it can really help you a long way with that. But what's really also important in the portfolio is to show yourself, like how you are as a team person, how do you collaborate. So please do mention whenever it's in your portfolio that I did this project in a group of 3, this was my role, right? So it's not possible that everybody did everything on that project, or if even if it was a project alone, right? So this was the like some of my seniors advised me that you should have single projects that show that you can take something along the way and you can follow the whole process. But maybe also you can have a team of 3 and you do a hackathon on the weekend if you want to have a project, right? So take a problem statement from anywhere, right? Or see the problems that you might have, and you can make a project out of that and take it, and then do mention that this was what XYZ did. And also in the end, it's very nice to show that these were my learnings of the project that we did, or I revisited a very old project and I revamped it, but I also kept the previous one because I wanted to show, okay, when a year down the lane I think of that project, this is what's wrong. So that can show growth as well within your thinking process. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, then I think there's this question here. If like for MS program abroad, how was your portfolio looking like? And is it on similar lines as what you said?
Um, so when at least when I went abroad, like I had, like I mentioned, just done DHCS, and that was the only project I talked about. I did not have a website. I think I attached. I now it's been a while, but I think I attached a PDF document
Mm.
which was showing that one project, but that was it. So when you go for an MS, like the statement of purpose matters more than a portfolio because it is you're going there to learn the job. So you're not looking to get hired in a company, right? Like they're not making you do the work right away. So it's less about what you can do as a designer, but it's like why do you want to do design, and you need to convince people on that. Yes, if you have industry experience, it's great to attach a portfolio, but it is not needed. Like a lot of us got into, so I did UW, Carnegie Mellon, Georgia Tech. I know a lot of my peers, and none of us had solid portfolios that would get us hired, but we got into MS. So it's a little different to think about like MS versus getting a job.
Hmm. Yeah, okay. I think we have discussed enough about portfolio. If like you could, just throw some light on your interviews, maybe that would be great. In or I think you have done that. If you want to add something, maybe.
I
Or
can
I.
do a summary of, so usually it's hard to generalize, every company has their own process, but there would be an initial recruiter screen who would look at your portfolio and your resume to think, okay, is it even worth going forward? There might be a recruiter call first. Again, this is a lot of US companies that I interviewed with. I haven't interviewed much in India. It might be different. I'm not sure. But usually, a recruiter call, then you would talk like a phone interview with one designer. That's one-on-one where you're talking through a project. If it goes well, some companies would give you a design exercise, which might be a prompt that is timed or you're given a weekend to do it, and then you have to submit that. At least Google does that. You have to turn in your design exercise. If that looks good, and even Dropbox did it, if that looks good, then you're called on site, and on site would be like a 4 to 5 hour interview session, which will range from first presenting your portfolio. After that, there'll be a whiteboarding exercise where again you're like collaborating with the designer and solving a problem. There is always some sort of a behavioral round, so you have to think about behavior questions. And lastly, like yeah, like those are mostly the kind of rounds you have, and that will be the final one.
Mm, okay.
I think also bringing back the screening point, what happens, what I've seen is like the process is very similar of multiple rounds and tasks that's given in the companies. The screening that we have here is done by the HR, and I think that's the case with a lot of companies, which is why resume making and the portfolio is sort of emphasized on, because your audience has to be kept in mind, and the audience of your portfolio and resume here is going to be the HR, and they would not understand a lot of design jargon, but they would have been given pointers from the design leadership that you need to look for these keywords, or maybe these kind of projects that they've done. They're coming from this industry or this college, or these kind of projects they should have. So you really need to craft your resume with that in mind, that you need to have those keywords in. And I think that's the case with any field. But yeah.
Yeah. So okay. I'll go ahead and if you want to, just highlight how your journey was from CSE to MTech, and in just like how did you just go about things, and what made you, enjoy this design field, and yeah, maybe just 3 4 lines.
Okay, I'll start. So, for a shift from computer science to design, I think I did not know about design. I was one of those people who thought design was fashion design, and so when I came to like second or third year, I saw seniors like Karan. going for a MS HCI, and that's when I knew something like HCI exists. And then I came to know about the course that was being taught by PK sir, and that's when I knew this was the fit. Like it was completely that okay, I cannot do anything else, and also because I knew that I would have been a very very mediocre engineer if I went into computer science. So yeah, and I started looking for internships or competitions to take part in, or job, looking for the companies that I knew at that time, and I started going to their career pages or LinkedIn or Glassdoor or things like that, and searching for that. But I knew it would be very difficult for me because I did not have a portfolio in place. So, which is why I went on to because I could not find anything in the industry at that time. Maybe my search was not that great, or whatever the reasons were. I just did not feel comfortable going into that unknown, and I knew that I could try for a shift within the company that I go into as an engineer, but I was very scared at that time, and I just wanted to go through a straight road, and which is why I chose the MDes program. Because again, I did apply for GRE, like I took the test and I wanted to apply for colleges, but then I got scared of the LORs that I would get or not get and stuff like that. So yeah, so I came to know after that about MDes from another like 1 year senior folks, and that's when that came into it. And then yeah, I think Harty was great, like serving, because I got into the courses that I enjoyed, and yeah.
So my understanding of design in Triple IT completely came from the DHCS project. Before that, I had no idea about interaction design or HCI per se. But after that, I started looking specifically at interaction design courses, and the so I looked at my own project from the DHCS course and tried to compare it to people who had proper formal education, and understood that the design I was doing currently was not at all up to mark with the industry. So I wanted to learn something properly. So that is why I thought I should properly have an education, and try. I only applied for interaction design at NIT because I was very clear that I wanted to do interaction design. Also, one perception I had at the time was HCI is only screen designing or making mobile apps. And when I tried to understand design properly, I got to know that there's much more than just designing screens. That is why I decided to give MDes a shot and do.
I
Yeah,
think like
my
both of the stories, mine also started with DHCS course with PK only, but I took up Manmohan Kushala's courses as well, and those were for video editing and animation and graphics as well. And there I met Pratiti and Khushbu, who were pursuing MDes or were applying. So Khushbu was applying, and Pratiti was also already pursuing from IIT Kanpur. So I think that's how I got into this idea of there is a master's in design as well, and I just studied more about it. And MDes wasn't the only master's exam I gave. I gave MBA as well, but I think MBA wasn't something I really wanted to do, so I never really performed that well in CAT. But I performed really well in MDes. Got through um, one of the best colleges here, so I was pretty happy doing what I was doing. And plus, I was doing, yeah, again, what Bhavna said, I was doing what I loved. So I was just really happy that I'll be paid for what I love. That will be good.
yeah, my journey is pretty much the same. Nothing to add. Yes, yes.
Okay, now like one common question is like, so we have CSD and now we have portfolio and all. So how do we search and apply for design jobs, and like how do we get mentorship? How do we get referrals and all stuff? And will you refer us?
So
I think
regarding, yeah.
just quickly, I think it'll be a good idea if you could reach out to alumni in the industry and ask them to ask their companies to, com- uh, get in touch with IIIT and make them aware about the design course at IIIT also. That would be one good idea.
Okay. Which company?
No, so any like the companies that people are working in.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
So if they can, tell their companies that IIIT is also offering MRes and you should try to screen people from there also, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
I would just quickly add LinkedIn, reach out. I'm happy to connect with anybody here and even do like portfolio reviews and stuff. And happy to put in referrals as well. And one more thing, I have to drop off in the next 2-3 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just finish. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing, that find jobs on LinkedIn or career pages of specific companies if you have them in mind. And yeah, I think LinkedIn makes it very easy these days to ask for referral because it's right next to the apply.
Yeah.
You can ask somebody to do that for you.
Also, as someone already mentioned, don't be afraid of the job profile that they mentioned, like 8 years of experience and all those things. Just give it a shot.
Okay, okay. Yeah. I think that what makes the difference. Yeah, I think so. This is it. Like we have few questions which are new on the chat, which we'll take it and we'll get it from you and give it to them. We'll send them, share
Sure,
it to
sure.
them. So otherwise, I hope this was an informative session for all the CST and other students here. And yeah, so I think if possible, we could have just one group, photo, and then we can close it because it was thank you so much for even exceeding the time because we thought it would go till 6:30 and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's
like
okay.
near 7, but it was really great. I think now CSD people will bug you all, definitely, I know that. And yeah, so Lavina, if you could just
Yeah, just I'll just take a screenshot real quick. So just great. I think
yeah, okay.
okay. You can wrap up. I think.
Yeah, it's wrapped up. I think now we people will just keep disturbing them. That's it. And thank you a lot for this much time. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you, thank
you.
you.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye bye.
Aishi,
एक second.
Aishi,
Huh? Ah,
are you thirsty?
yes. I'm also hungry. ठीक है.
Great. I'll just copy paste the questions once
Hmm.
for our personal
Yes,
chat.
I think ये सब yeah. This will also be saved. I think तो हम we will
Yeah, yeah.
just coordinate this.
But yeah,
Ayushi,
हाँ. Hello. Hmm.
Ayushi,
हाँ.
listen, would it be possible to for you to ask them if they could like review the CSD 2017 ka batch portfolio, like not the individual portfolio, the batch portfolio? Could you
अच्छा
like just
batch
ask them if they
portfolio.
can like review just that?
बैच
We'll
पोर्टफोलियो
send
एज
you
इन
the
कहाँ
link
पे
for that.
कैसे.
We have the portfolio, it's like a
Oh,
PPT, so
okay, okay,
they
okay.
could just tell us like what all